Hello everyone and welcome to today's chapel period meeting, October 30th, 2020. Today we will hear from 7 members of the class of 2021. As we head into November, I want to again thank you for your hard work and commitment. The spirit and cohesion of the extended Suffield Academy community have been immensely helpful as we work through this challenging and complicated period. Let me now turn to David Towers.
Hello Suffield, my name is David Towers and I'm a 4-year senior day student from Westfield, Mass. Suffield Academy has taught me so much and helped me make great friends over the years that I will never forget. There are many new experiences I've had at Suffield and my home that made it difficult to come up with what I wanted to share with you today, but the decision was made for me when I was told about someone. Maybe he was a little bit of a surprise, but never have I loved anybody more. This is my nephew, Anthony Thomas Towers. Here he is in the hospital when he first met his dad, my brother. Anthony came out after 30 weeks in the womb at 3 pounds, 9 ounces, which if any of you know is about 10 weeks too early and a few pounds too light. Despite facing these adversities, despite his size and having some lung issues, Anthony was able to stay healthy with the amazing help of the nurses at Bay State Medical Center in Springfield. However, because of Corona, the hospital is only allowed 2 visitor bands per patient, which meant everyone would have to wait to meet Anthony other than my brother, who went to go see him every day. After a very long 6 weeks, Anthony was strong enough to come home and meet the rest of his family, and this was easily one of the happiest moments I've ever had in my life. Here's me holding him for the first time and feeding him for the first time. When Anthony got home, my brother brought him in and I was the first one at the door ready to meet him. I grabbed him and gave him a little tour of the house, showed him around because that's where he'd be staying. He was so tiny and so beautiful, I couldn't believe it. My parents were kind of upset that I held him before them because they're the grandparents, but I'm his uncle, so whatever, you know? I already love this kid so much and I just know he will be loved unconditionally by so many people. Here's just me hanging out with Anthony, we're holding hands together, and here's him laying down in his, it's a baby seat called a boppy. It's just meant to help support his head, but he is so small and he is so beautiful. I love him so much. These are definitely my favorite pictures that I have with him so far. Another great skill that comes out of this is, thank you Ethan by the way, I get to raise a baby without ever actually having a baby, so that's an A+. My nephew Anthony has already affected my life in such a big way. He gives me even more motivation to go out and be the best me I can every day. And I want to set a great example for him because I know one day he will do amazing things and I will be with him every step of the way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Honey Chung, and this is my 3rd year at Suffield Academy.
Hi, I'm Delaney Miles, and this is my 2nd year at Suffield Academy.
As day students and boarders live completely separate lives, it can sometimes be a challenge for friendships to thrive, considering boarders live at school and day students live at home. As Delaney was an incoming junior last year, building an extremely close bond may seem unconventional to some.
Andrew Ruha?
Even so, Delaney and I have been able to navigate our time in order to make the most out of our newfound friendship.
Coming into Suffield, I was nervous, as any new student would be. Yet, when checking to see who would be in my classes, I noticed that Hani was in every single one of them. At this moment, I knew I had to meet her.
Hearing from other friends that Delaney and I would get along well, I had an inclination to introduce myself. When doing so, we both sensed that this was going to be a friendship even outside the classroom.
Unlike most friendships, Hani and I felt as though we had known each other forever. Within the first month of school, she became closer than any of the friends I've had for years. This quickly turned into hanging out in the dorms during our frees, Hani signing out and spending the weekends together, planning vacations, and even getting a 4-hour detention with one another. A unique aspect to this friendship is how it flourished merely from having classes with one another.
Even outside of school, Delaney and I were fortunate enough to see each other consistently over the summer. From showing her around my hometown, the Berkshires in Massachusetts, and vice versa, to being shown around Longmeadow, to traveling together, both Delaney and I were able to make connections with each other's families. Unexpectedly from this, Delaney and I became even more inseparable.
Hani and I were and are able to be flexible to one another's schedules. As we only have one class together this year, we have had to work harder to find time with Suffield's new COVID safety precautions. Even with the changes Hani and I have had to adapt to, we continue to be just as close as we were last year.
Delaney and I, time and time again, became extremely considerate of each other and of each other's schedules. Considering the work we have put into this friendship, the outcome has clearly been successful. For new students, it is important to keep in mind that the student body is what makes Suffield Suffield. The faculty and staff are also contributing factors. The memories made here stem from close friendships and personal connections with teachers and coaches.
As the years progress, we have Suffield to thank for this forever friendship. Because I live from home while Hani lives at school, I have taken away a better understanding of what it is to me to be a Suffield boarder.
Although we will be leading different lives in the future, when reconnecting later on, we will have gratitude towards Suffield for this lifelong friendship. Despite living at school and Delaney living at home, it is hard to have a separation between day students and boarders because of how welcoming the Suffield community is. Suffield will remain the core of long-lasting friendships.
Hi, I'm Julia Cavalier, and I'm a 4-year day student from East Granby, Connecticut, and I'm going to be sharing you my college essay. I was just moments before letting go, but suddenly I caught myself. I recaptured my balance. 5 or so years ago, before this moment, I was in my t-shirt and underwear dancing around my room to You Belong With Me by Taylor Swift, blasting on my speaker. I could feel, but she wears short skirts, I wear t-shirts, in my lungs, resonating to my teenage core. Sooner rather than later, I was filled with content watching late-night movies with my brother, eating sweet coffee ice cream, and rolling on the floor laughing until my belly hurt. I missed those moments and longed to be reunited with that person who I used to be. I felt distanced from myself, aching for my fun-loving and whimsical personality to resurface. I was just moments before letting go. I felt my head spinning, vision blurring, and hands sweating. I was walking quickly, stumbling along the road with cars rushing by, grasping at fleeting lyrics from the radio as they drifted from the car windows and into the distance. After all the medications and countless hours of therapy, I was estranged from myself. I was lost, feeling darkness around me. I would stay up late at night, feeling the tears stream down my face on the cold bathroom floor, my arms stinging and bleeding until I felt numb. The hopelessness suffocated my chest, and I wished I would never wake up. I wrote a detailed note, a contractual obligation to myself to follow through. To many people, writing a suicide note is a symbol of ungratefulness, selfish, and ignorance. I may have been broken, but I was not ungrateful, selfish, or ignorant. I was as grateful as ever, realizing all of the beautiful pieces of life that I had to lose. I was far from selfish, thinking this was the easiest way to unburden my family and friends. I was not ignorant because I remembered that little girl dancing to and singing to Taylor Swift and how I was capable of happiness. That part of me never left. I was waiting to be rediscovered. I went to an intensive outpatient therapy program where I would meet people like me. On the first day, I noticed 3 acoustic guitars leaning against the wall, providing a sense of comfort. I was surrounded by strangers who had also lost themselves somewhere along the way. Nervous but wanting to connect, I eventually picked up a guitar and began to play one of my originals, a song I later chose to dedicate to the people I met there. We only played for each other once, yet this opened the door to my rediscovery. We learned that although we had mental illnesses, we would not stop them from defining our lives. We had music. We were different, not flawed. We go through hell and back just to rediscover what it means to live. We learn to search for ourselves in the darkest places while shining light on others. I remember telling myself in that hospital, if I can do this, I can do anything. I decided to rediscover myself through music, and by doing so stopped my mental illness from clouding my vision. I am my own hero. I am a survivor. That resiliency is what opens my eyes every morning. I dance around my room still, but now I write my own songs. Each one is part of the healing process, part of my rediscovery. Every song I write and sing fills me with life. With my hands on the wobbling strings of my guitar, I found my strength. Soon I was filling the room again. The heaviness in my chest is lifted, and I identified a newfound purpose, to help others. As my voice grows in different directions, that of my younger selves echoes in my mind, reminding me of how I got to where I am. We should all be able to take a moment to bask in the sunshine on the steamy pavement, feeling the music, embracing ourselves. I know what it's like to lose this. Although I don't know exactly where I will go now, college is the next step on my journey to realizing my goal of helping others rediscover their singing moments. Here I am existing today. I am alive, I am breathing, I am different, but I am rediscovered. Thank you.
Can you hear me? I guess it's okay.
Hello. I don't know if I'm allowed to not introduce myself here. I did not ask, but I promise we'll get to that. With that weird beginning, I'm gonna jump right in. I spend every day considering how everyone else sees me. Whether the kids in my classes think I'm cool, whether my friends think I'm making the right choices, whether I'm being nice enough or listening enough. When someone doesn't like me, I obsess over what I did, even if it's not my fault. From that need to be liked, I formed a very bad habit. When someone gets close to me, I figure out how they want me to be, how they need to be loved, and what they need me for. And I try to change myself, just slightly, to be perfect for them, cutting out the bits I think they don't like. Living like that isn't conducive to mental health or self-image. Everyone always talks about living unapologetically, but I live very much apologetically. So here's my chapel speech, the one time in my 4 years I get a stage all to myself. I was gonna talk about my friends, my family, my teachers, but that was for them. I have so much love to give and so many people to thank, but this has to be for me. I'm going to introduce myself to all of you, as I am, not as I want to be seen, not changing anything for others. I'm becoming my own unapologetic self, and this is my introduction. It belongs to me and only me, and I have so much to say. So maybe that's where I start. I love to talk, I ramble, I mumble, sometimes I whisper, and sometimes I talk too loud and too fast. I send texts that no one reads, and I tell stories that no one listens to. I talk to babies and inanimate objects and myself. I can't swim or ride a bike, and sometimes when I get really anxious, I can't even talk to people on my own. I'm dramatic, whiny, clingy, and hypocritical. I obsess over things that I shouldn't think twice about. I'm unsure, and I need constant validation. My biggest dream is to run a little antique store in Oregon that sells all kinds of tchotchkes and little pieces of the world that I've collected. I have too many biggest fears to fit in this speech. I'm a Swiftie. My favorite album by her is 1989. With folklore as a close second. I also like rock, folk, and punk music, and punk rock, and folk folk, and everything in between. I feed off of angry music, and I cry to happy music because I want to feel how they felt. I love math.
and anything solid and reasonable that I can take apart and put back together. But I love art too. I love stage managing and graphic design and painting and doodling and spitting on a piece of paper and calling it art. I think it's fun to goof off in public. I like to stage fights and marriage proposals and make everyone around me ask their friends in a whisper who I think I am to be talking that loud. I like to use exclamation points and little cat emojis and colon parentheses smileys, even in professional emails. Not the cat emojis, but it feels wrong not to include a gesture of appreciation that they took the time of day to read what I had to say. I used to love to lie and pretend to be someone else for 5 minutes. It was borderline pathological. I hate joking about it. That was a lie. I like to test things. I like to jump on vents and walk on cliffs and climb trees and balance on roofs. I like to shave my head and see who still talks to me. I like to push too hard on an egg and act shocked when it breaks. I like to play dumb. Sometimes when something's obvious, I'll pretend like I never had a clue. But the truth is, I notice a lot of things. Sometimes I notice something, like my friend's aunt's cousin's dog's name, and then I'll have to pretend I didn't memorize it by accident. From the very first chapel speech I saw, I planned what I'd say when it was my turn. I planned to show everyone who judged me that I was actually okay. I thought I'd be different than this, of course. I thought I'd get to hug my friends after, and I'd look a little different, taller. I've rewritten this speech 1,000 times since then, and every time I get stuck right here at the ending. I told you what I like, love, hate, but how do I get you all to understand me? How do I correct every assumption that's been made about me and every bad impression that I've made? I think that I already knew my ending wouldn't be perfect. It can't be the movie ending I've wanted since the first speech I saw, where the protagonist delivers the perfect final words and gets to finally be happy. Instead, I'll put my mask on and go wait in the other room to take a photo. I'm not sure if I'll feel different, let alone happy, just yet. And the other thing is, I can't make you all understand me. You might understand me less or hate me more. So maybe this isn't the perfect ending that I dreamed of, but maybe this is my perfect ending. Not one where I need everyone else to love me to be happy, but one where I love myself. But I'd be remiss if I didn't deliver at least one part of the speech that I dreamed of as a freshman. Part of the movie ending that I'd hoped for, but this time it belongs to me and only me. I'm transgender. I've never been good with truth, but that's mine. I know that's probably what we were all expecting here. I've been afraid of those words for so long because they mean change. I've always hated change, but things have to change to get better, and I want them to. I was worried for the longest time about what others would say to me, but now the worry is just excitement, to be loud and uncensored, and to tell people exactly who I am and how I feel without worrying about who might overhear. I don't care what questions people ask or the looks I'll get. I just want to be able to talk about it. So that's where I am too. I love to talk, and ramble and mumble and whisper, and talk too loud and too fast. And as for the rest of my introduction, some people call me Nora, some people call me Norm, and some people call me Nor and just trail off so they don't have to finish. So now you know a lot about me. My name is Nor, and I'm a 4-year senior from Springfield, Massachusetts. Thank you.
I start my mornings each the same. Tiny speakers push sounds into my ears. Words sent to my brain, and emotion finds a way of lingering in my heart. When we listen to music, we ask ourselves the question, where is it we want to go? Hi, my name is Emma Lenarski, and today I'll be commenting on a selection of playlists I've made, and I hope through this speech maybe you'll find some fun new songs or feel inspired to make a playlist of your own. When I was 12 years old, I first saw the movie Interstellar, and I remember understanding nearly nothing. Dialogue in this film takes the form of scientific jargon and an endless series of questions pertaining to unsolvable theories. And yet, this was the first film I had ever seen that moved me. Maybe it was the stunning soundtrack, the impressive visuals filmed on glaciers in Iceland, or the idea that space travel to another dimension was seemingly possible.
My years of middle school consisted of reading various books about parallel universes, plausible missions to Mars, multiverses, and more. When I wasn't reading, I delivered newspapers around my neighborhood, a job which required a large sum of my money to be spent on a plane ticket to space camp, where I hoped to further my interests. Making the playlist for Watching the Stars or Interstellar for the millionth time reminds me of how I felt the first time I saw this movie, and reflecting off of my playlist title, there have been many, many more watches. And while today my passions are geared more towards writing than science, I hope that one day I'll be able to write a movie that makes someone feel the same way I felt about Interstellar. When making my next playlist, A Glimmer of Hope, I considered how I think of myself as an optimistic person, but every now and then my hopefulness wavers, and so I created a playlist that helps me regain my positivity. Some of this playlist consists of songs from a couple of my favorite films, and others are merely songs with moody undertones and overarching melodies of peacefulness and triumph. One song lyric suggests, "Somewhere in the ballroom tonight, let us feel elation," and to me there's something so incredibly beautiful in the simplicity of this statement, the inference that we're all just trying to find our own happiness in a setting that envelops us. For this next playlist, I do not actually know how to skateboard, so I guess that doesn't entirely describe my persona, but oh well. Rather, I've seen enough films to have lived vicariously through the beauty of a skateboarding scene so as to feel qualified to make a fitting playlist. When I watch a film with either a skateboarding or biking scene, there's waves of peace that consumes me and immediately melts away my negative feelings. Upon making this next playlist, lying on the ground and watching the clouds float by, I remember being inspired by the poem I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth. It deals with both themes of loneliness and imagination, and for that reason I continue to make my playlists. Another slightly arbitrary title for a playlist, but a vintage-inspired bookstore that plays good music, is based off of my love for stopping inside independent bookstores. 2 summers ago, my mom and I went hiking in the Adirondacks, and on our way back home, we stopped at a small independent bookstore in a city we passed through. Now, whenever I see the book I purchased from there on my bookshelf, it reminds me of the memories I made on that weekend adventure. The vintage-inspired detail relates to the kind of visuals I appreciate in film and graphics. Whether an actual bookstore plays this playlist or not, it's still a great set of songs for finding a book at home and reading a chapter or two. The last playlist I will be describing today I titled End Credits of a Coming-of-Age Film. It reminds me of those moments of being in the middle of a film you haven't seen before and realizing as you approach its end you're going to be nostalgic for the moment you saw this film for the first time. No matter how many times I rewatch Interstellar, it will never compare to the first viewing of the movie when I was just 12 years old. Many of these songs on this playlist have lyrics pertaining to similar themes of coming of age, so I decided to include the phrase in the title. For some reason, I always attribute sadness to finishing a good book or movie, knowing I'll never have that experience again. Sometimes after I finish a book or film, I'll put this playlist on, and it's as if I can relive all the brilliant moments of the story, and it still feels new. I take great joy in the creative expression that comes with forming relations between songs to instill a feeling or inspire some form of storytelling. I don't think I'll ever stop making playlists so long as I wish to write stories. If I have any advice to bestow in my final year of high school and my final line of my chapel speech, make a playlist and allow yourself to ponder where it is you want to go. You never know where it could lead, and you may learn something new about yourself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Miles Henley, and I am a 4-year senior at Suffield. Now, I love computer science. I feel that not enough people try it, which can be for any number of reasons. You might not be interested in computers, or you want to focus on the core subjects, or you already have an extra class like band or pottery. But for those of you who might consider this, I would like to bring you through what the computer science track looks like, and show you all the cool stuff you can make, in hopes of convincing some of you to get involved. My first encounter came during Hour of Code, which I hope our freshmen will still be able to experience this December. Starting with zero exposure to coding, by the end, I could make all sorts of crazy shapes and colors that changed at random. Intro Computer Science is a very good starting point, especially for those with just a casual interest in the subject. It is very simple at the beginning, like drawing a house with rectangles, but each lesson adds to our coding ability. We go on to learn more advanced bits, like making clickable boxes or simulating our own gravity, and then adding them to larger projects. This culminated with our winter term project, making our own video games. This here is my own game with the impressively uninspired name Tank Fight. It's based on those simple tank games where you arc your shots over a wall to land on an enemy. You can play against the computer, co-op with a friend, or play against each other, with any combination of automatic tanks helping with each side. You can even leave out the players altogether and set the auto tanks against each other in a 10v10 matchup. Tank Fight and other student games can be found by Googling for Intro CS projects. Among them you can find Stunner with its amazing original soundtrack, Suffield Smackdowns, starring myself as one of the fighters, Switch with its gravity control, Bossland Endless Dungeon with its unique spells, and ASCII Terra with its procedurally generated world made entirely with typed characters. Credit goes to the creators. In the spring, we moved on to EV3 Mindstorms, making robots out of Legos. We had many different puzzles and designs, but the highlight of our term was our BattleBots, Capture the Flag. The goal was to bring the other team's ball back to our own side of the field. We had special sensors on the sides of the robots that will disable them when pressed, like being tagged. We specialized our robots. Some would capture the ball, while others had special attachments to hit the sensors. Mine had a moving claw. It was a blast, and Mr. Healy captured the whole thing on his 360-degree camera. Note that this was not part of the original course. We, the students, had spare class time and figured out what we could do in the last few days of our term. So, if you end up with a day ahead of schedule, you might find yourself with an opportunity to try something fun. For AP Computer Science, we got into new and complex programming. Sorting algorithms, data structures, and unit testing await those who are still interested after intro. Granted, it is certainly not as flashy as video games or robots, but there is still plenty of fun to be had. One of our early projects was to make a program to solve mazes, which was a very cool way to apply those newer skills. During the spring term, Mr. Healy gave us a framework for a Connect 4 program. We each made an AI that looked at the board and all of the possible moves to choose the best outcome. They were virtually unbeatable for any of us, so we ended up pairing the AI against each other. If you are still eager for computer science even after AP, independent study is where things split off because you have free reign to plan out the year. As most have in the past, I'm making another video game. This time it will be in Unity, a dedicated game engine. Right now, I'm recreating Tank Fight as part of the learning process, and this lets me improve on the original, like adding particle effects. Compare this new sparkler effect to the orange circle I had in the old version. Computer science is easily my favorite subject, and I hope that this will convince some of you to dip your toes in the water and try it out. There is no obligation to continue beyond the level that feels right for you. Feel free to email me if you have any questions about my experience. Mr. Healy and Mr. Graham are also available for questions about the classes in general. Again, please check out the website to see games that students before you have made, and perhaps think about what you can make. Thank you.